military leader is educating his citizens that even if you have to eat grass, military comes first. From your tax money, I'm going to buy tanks, I'm going to buy golf courses, I'm going to buy aeroplanes, I'll buy a house in London, another house in New York to protect you. Whew. 70 years from independence, if Pakistan has to go with a bowl for $2.5 billion, a $2.5 billion ka check, to in Bombay, you will find 500 people who can write a check and not worry about it. They have to go to IMF. It's in China's interest to keep sufficient tension in Kashmir so that half the Indian army, or more than half the Indian army at certain times, is bogged down in the western sector so that they have a free run in the eastern sector. They can do what they want. They want that much of tension.
What are the things that needs to happen in order to have peace or collaboration between the two countries?
So of course,
Help me as a foreigner, help me understand a little bit more of the history of this conflict, because I like what you said. Like, this conflict is not just it's not just one piece of land. There's the conflict. There's many layers, and that come from the past. Help me to understand those layers that created this conflict.
Now, what happens is at the time of partition, and this has to be gone into a little bit of nuance, because until 1945-46, the clamoring is for independence. There's clamoring for independence. The independence, Simon go back, this thing, disobedience movement, quit India movement, Dandi March, all of this activity which is happening with. And when I'm saying India, I'm including everything, starting from what is today called Pakistan all the way to Bangladesh, this that whole Indian subcontinent, right? So in this Indians, actually including parts of Burma and Singapore also were being governed by the British in a very similar format. So during this time, the clamoring is for independent India, for India to become independent. It is not that where will Muslims live, where will Hindus live, and all of that.
Yeah.
And Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was the founding father of Pakistan, actually brought this. It's there in his several books that have been written about him. It's there in Pakistani literature. He wanted to use the concept of Pakistan as a negotiating ploy to get more powers to the federated states. So when you form the country,
What do you mean the federated?
When you form the country, let's say you're going to become independent. You have two formats you can follow. One format you can follow is like the United States of America. United States of America. Many states have got together and decided, we'll run our own shit, we'll execute our prisoners, we like to do this if we want the death penalty. So we'll continue with all that. But overall, we are United States. So one of our star is on the flag, and overall we'll, apple pie and motherhood and 4th of July and all of that we will, sort of believe. But we have our own states and we run our own states in our own ways, which was the way India was largely run. India was run by kings who were running their own shit in their own places, and they had to pay a certain amount of tax. They couldn't do some shit, like they couldn't do sati, they couldn't burn, they couldn't do human sacrifices and all that because that was against the law. But by and large, they could do pretty much anything else in their entire area so long as they continued to pay. And this is the model that Jinnah wanted. He wanted a lot of federation given to the states. Nehru wanted centralization because Nehru believed that if we are a fledgling nation and if we have to grow in economy, then we need to get the resources from all parts of the country.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So he wanted a central, federation. The more power will be in the center. Of course, there will be state subjects like education, this, that, all of that. But many of the like fiscal policy, foreign policy, all of that will be decided at the center, and Jinnah didn't want that. Jinnah also realized that given his weight, and I'm not talking about his religion, I'm not talking about anything, he's a very intellectual, very, very smart person, but given his weight in the struggle of the freedom, he was a flyweight. He didn't really, he hasn't spent time in jail like Nehru had, Gandhi had, he hadn't taken lathis like some of the other leaders had, he hadn't shed blood, there was no skin in the game. There was a lot of intellectual aspect, and he definitely fought what he thought was for the Muslim minority in India.
Yeah.
But he didn't expect Pakistan to be approved. He didn't. Matter of fact, Mountbatten has actually said it, that Jinnah was being so truculent, constantly, fighting, that finally Mountbatten told him that you just shut up during the meeting. and I'm just going to speak for the Muslim League, and you will nod your head. It's on record that Jinnah didn't want, and when he suddenly got. So in India, there's a lot of planning that has happened about how the country will be grown, he will handle this, what will, Sardar Patel will be the home minister, so-and-so will be so-and-so, this one will be so-and-so. All of this planning has been done because these guys have been sitting in jail and doing what? Making plans about how they will, take India to the next level, where will they go? Pakistan is a surprise. It's like literally you've been told, oh, you got a 17-bedroom apartment in Trivandrum. You don't speak the language, you have no idea, you don't know who your people who you want to take with you from here, so they're refusing to come, they say, we don't want to go to Kerala, we don't know what that language is. So when Pakistan begins, it begins literally with no idea what they are going to do, except one statement that Pakistan, the land of the pure, is for the good Muslim. So a lot of people in India. So now what happens
I understand why a lot of people move to Pakistan.
Because Jinnah's stand was that Hindus, by the way, never referred to, whatever, never referred to Indians as Indians. He used to always call them Hindus.
Yeah.
Right? For him, it was Hindus and Muslims. It was Hindus and Muslims. So in his head, Islam was a binding religion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, it's really funny that the Field Marshal Asim Munir, he has become Field Marshal, so we have to address him by his rank. He actually stated in his 22nd May speech, or wherever he gave that speech, that only 2 countries in history have been founded on the basis of religion, which is the Caliphate, which was founded, and after that, 1300 years later, Pakistan. Now, good question somebody should ask is that for so many years, then why didn't other countries also do it on religion if it was such a great idea? Right? If it was such a great idea, why wouldn't other countries also have their own, sort of citizenship based only, or the demography based only on religion? So since that was the clarion call, now the next step became that how do you convince a Muslim who is sitting in UP or a Muslim who's in Bihar that you have to immigrate to East Pakistan? By the way, a lot of them went from Bihar also. I don't know if you know this. Most of us think that Muslims went from UP, Punjab, these parts to Pakistan, which we call Pakistan now.
Even
hundreds of thousands of, there's more than 200,000 people who are still in Bangladesh, who are actually from Bihar. There are Biharis who went there thinking this is our East Pakistan. They're still there. They're horribly persecuted and all that, but they're still there. Right? I don't know how big the number is, but when they went, it was like 300, 400,000. I'm sure they must be their descendants or whatever living. So now, because the binding call has to be on Islam, can a Savile Row, barrister preach Islam? He cannot. So he relies heavily on the Maulvis, the Mullahs, the madrasas, the religious institutions. So your country's beginning is happening with the political establishment relying on the religious establishment to create the locus standi of the country. Right?
Oh, wow.
So now, everywhere in the mosques and all of that, the story is that if you move, average Hindu, average Muslim in India, he has no, you're talking 1947, there is no internet, no, people are not educated, there isn't even frigging Morse code. Even they run only between trunk lines and only government can talk to each other. So what are the people going to do? There is no India radio. There's only rumors that they are hearing, and the only structured method of communication is the religious establishment.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if I want to communicate something, the reason why you have so many temples, so many mosques, so many churches in any area, of course, the core reason is everyone believes my Islam is better than yours, my form of worship is better. So you'll have. But it also creates a proliferation of communication centers. Indoctrination centers. Thought shaping centers. Right? And what happens is, in the beginning, every person in Pakistan is told that your reason for existence is that this is Pak, the land of the pure. If you're a pure Muslim, then you will be here. That's how it begins. So it begins with Islam being the center point, not economy, not how the country will grow, now not what will happen. Also, what happens is during the partition, when the partition takes place, the Pakistani leadership feels, rightfully, wrongfully, we can go back to history and actually look at what happened during that point of time, they feel wronged. They feel that they have not got a fair deal from India. in terms of the division of the assets.
The asset or the territory?
Not just territory. Assets were also divided.
Well, the asset.
I mean, it is macabre.
That's like what?
Library books.
Oh, yeah.
The central library books. If you have 10 copies of that, 7 will remain in India, 3 will go to Pakistan. So the beginning of the country is a leadership that is insecure, that feels rightfully, wrongfully, feels that they have been cheated, feels they can't trust the Hindus, that's what they call us, and therefore their reason for existence, the raison d'etre of Pakistan is enmity with India. That's the reason for existence. So much so, and you don't have to take my word for it, so much so that if you read any Pakistani school literature, it begins with the same theory. Their fixation on India is their rationale for existence. And now I'll tell you something which is more interesting, which explains why this is
more interesting because it's already so interesting.
Now the complicated part. Let's go. The division of these two countries takes place. I want you to put yourself into the shoes of the politicians in Delhi at that point of time. There's chaos. There's chaos in the streets. Looting has begun. British are going.
Yes.
As order is exiting, hoodlums will come. The rough elements will come. And so police is fledgling. You still are trying to get your hands together. You're trying to drop and there's no Excel sheet and all. Everything has been done on hand and paper. That how much will go to Pakistan, how much will remain here, how will we function, how will they function. If we don't give them adequate resources, then that country won't be stable. If the country is not stable, it's a very problem for us only. So you have to give them this much. But my local population will be against me. If I gave too much to Pakistan, then my local population will be after me. So you have to look at local demography, external, all this chaos is going on. In this entire chaos, there is only one organization that is working like a well-oiled machine. That's the Indian Armed Forces. Why? They've just returned from Second World War. Second World War finished in 1944-45. Troops are still coming back.
What about the Pakistani?
The Indian Armed Forces.
Same, right?
Yeah. The Indian Armed Forces. I'm not about Pakistani Army, Indian Army.
At that time, yes.
1945 with the Indian Armed Forces, right?
Yeah.
So this well-oiled machine, when it comes back, they are the only ones who are capable of taking orders, executing them, and guess what? They know the English way of working, but they work with the Allied. They know the modern equipment. They can use radio, they can use telegraph, they can set up bridges, they can set up hospitals, they can do administration. So the one entity which is functioning on a 7 to 8 out of 10 in your entire realm is the armed forces. Okay? Now, bulk of the institutions that are required to build the country, whether it be parliament, railways, this, that, CAG, Officer Training School, Indian Military Academy, National Defense Academy, all of it is in India. Everything is in India, right? Pakistan has only one asset, which is in Balochistan, the capital of Balochistan, Quetta, which is the Staff College. Staff College is a college which we now have in Wellington. Staff College is the place where usually majors will go to attend to become commanding officers, to become colonels. So the Staff College teaching in Pakistan begins with you can't trust India.
Yeah.
Indians will renege on their promise.
Yeah.
They will not give us what is our due. And for a long period of time, the only way Jinnah found that he could bind his people together was by raising an India bogey and saying that India did not agree to the partition and they'll roll it back. So they ask for the retention of the army. So Pakistan as a nation, when it is born, has 30% of the erstwhile Indian Armed Forces. 30%.
Yeah.
But they have only 17% of the revenue.
Yeah.
So with 17% revenue, there is no way they can maintain a 30% army until the army will give a line that our existence is existential to Pakistan.
Yeah.
So even if you, a matter of fact, not one, 3 of their leaders have made this statement. Bhutto has said that if need be, we will eat grass, but we will continue fighting. Another leader has said, same thing, we will eat grass if needed, but we'll build an Islamic bomb.
Wow.
Yet another leader, I think recently has said, we don't care about anything, we'll fight India till the end. Nothing matters to us more than our sovereignty and all. This is a very nice line because it sounds very nice. But what is actually happening is the military leader is educating his citizens that even if you have to eat grass, military comes first.
Wow.
Sovereignty comes first. So if I am able to create a bogey which I'm able to threaten you by to say that you're going to be swallowed by this country. And so therefore, from your tax money, I'm going to buy tanks, I'm going to buy golf courses, I'm going to buy aeroplanes, I'll buy a house in London, another house in New York to protect you. So in many ways, Pakistan stepped into a train that had only one destination, which was continuously going. I mean, 70 years later, 70 years from independence, if Pakistan has to go with a bowl for $2.5 billion, $2.5 billion, a $2.5 billion ka check to in Bombay, you will find 500 people who can write a check and not worry about it. Yeah, everybody take this and go. They have to go to IMF and they have to do it periodically. And this $2.5 billion is not there for development and all. It's to pay salaries. It's to pay salaries of army teachers, put fuel in the way just to keep it going, and debt servicing of your previous debts, right? So you really have to ask that question, that what went wrong? Now, the advantage Pakistan has, you can't say everything is disadvantage. Advantage Pakistan has, I mean, they are blessed that way. Ironically, their geolocation. They are located in a place where on one side you have Iran.
Yeah.
Definitely an enemy of the US.
Yeah.
Another side they have Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Again an enemy of the US. You have Russia's underbelly. Again a Cold War enemy. You have China on the right, another communist bastion, enemy of the US, and you have India on one side. So if you were a American strategist, say 30, 40 years ago, let's talk about Nixon actually supporting Pakistan and being anti-India. Independence has happened. We are in the 50s, constitution has been written, all of that stuff has happened. Cold War is at its peak. 60s was Cold War's peak, right? Cold War peak, a communist country attacks India and India refurbishes its defense, this, that, and all of that stuff. Now, the Americans have to make a choice between Pakistan and India. What is the Pakistanis telling them? Pakistan is telling, sir, we will be with you wherever you want us to be. You tell us where to sign, we'll be your partner. You want us to be participating in CENTO, Southeast Asian, where is Southeast Asian and where is Pakistan? And yet they joined that pact. They joined that pact. Which has no relevance. They were even willing to send troops to Korea for the Korean conflict on behalf of the Americans. They constantly bargained their geography and as the frontline state against Russia with the Americans. So that is why when America needed to operate in Afghanistan against the Soviet Union, Pakistan had to be taken on board. When they had to operate against Taliban in Afghanistan, Pakistan had to be taken on board. That's their geolocation. So Pakistan's origin, or rather Kashmir's origin as a dispute.
Yeah, that's what my mind was there now. Yeah.
There's a very famous story that the word Pakistan was actually coined by 3 Pakistanis in a university in UK. And they wrote P for Punjab, A for Afghania, that Khyber, K for Kashmir. Then you had, of course, Sindh and Balochistan. So Kashmir was always in their calculus part of Pakistan, in their head. And also,
when?
Before the partition.
Even before the
partition, because the partition's rules, kind of loosely formulated rules, said that the Muslim majority parts will go to Pakistan and the Hindu majority parts will remain with India.
Yeah.
Of course, at that point of time, it was 40 million Hindus who were in 40 million Muslims who were in India, Middle India.
Yeah.
They were not taken into factor by Quaid-e-Azam. He didn't care about them. He cared about the West and the East. And therefore, Kashmir had to be part of India, part of Pakistan. In their equation, PAK is very much a part of Pakistan because Pakistan is the formulation of states that have got Muslim majority. So in their head, Pakistan should come to us. Kashmir should come to us. Right? By that logic. On ground, however, what happens is actually Jinnah signs a standstill agreement with Maharaja Hari Singh. He signs an agreement. By the way, Hari Singh signs with India also. Standstill basically means let's not take any decision right now. Whatever is the situation, let it remain like this. and we will decide on it later. Which India was happy to sign because we have 50 other things to solve right now. Let's solve those issues first, and food is to be solved. So many other problems. Then we'll look at Kashmir. For Pakistan, they didn't want to delay because please remember their history, at least in their perception, is we can't trust. They will promise one thing, but they will not do it. That is their perception, that if Hindus promise something, they will not live up to the promise. So this accession and all, we don't accept this shit. Let's just take it by force. And use of lashkars or use of irregular troops.
Sorry, but when the partition happened, when the agreement was made, what was the decision
So
about
the decision,
Kashmir?
yeah, good, very good question. So the decision, Lord Mountbatten.
Yeah.
So firstly, of course, this partition was hurried. There was a timeline for the partition. The partition was supposed to happen a good 2 to 3 years later than what happened in 1947.
Yeah.
However, the British assessment was the way the subcontinent is imploding.
Yeah.
It is best we get out of this as fast as possible.
Yeah.
That was point number one.
Yeah.
Point number two, UK was ravaged after the Second World War.
Yeah.
Churchill had lost his, clout. United Kingdom had lost its clout. All its colonies were now in open rebellion. They were withering away. And in the new world, the US came across preaching democracy and the freedom of people. And they wanted to, remember, they were fighting the communists, the Cold War. So for them, democracy and openness and all of that went completely contrary to their cousins keeping countries in colonization. So UK knew its time was up. And they knew the faster we get out of it, the more clout we'll have with both these countries.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And they realized that they actually needed to have clout with Pakistan and not India. Because
of the location.
Because geolocation, yeah. So suppose you're a British general or an American general and you have two alternatives. One alternative is to have a unified India. And a unified India, you will have to talk to Delhi before you want to go to, do this or do that, go under the Russian. Then Delhi will also say, no, I don't think Russians are as bad as you say. You keep painting them as very bad, but we don't think they are bad. They start thinking for themselves. Whereas you don't need the whole of India. You just need that one slice of land, which is my entry ramp into them. And if I need only that, then I must get them cut away from India.
Yeah.
I must have them independent and ideally not very strong so that they're dependent on my dole, my weapons, my everything, just to stay in power. And by the way, the Pakistani establishment from day one, people think, most Westerners think that the Pakistanis blackmail the world with their nuclear threat. That if you don't give us and if you don't tell India to back off, we'll blow a nuclear bomb. That's not the threat that they've been using for decades. For decades, the threat they've been using is, if you will not give me the English-speaking, the whiskey-drinking general who can come into your party and who can come into your ecosystem, who believes in liberalization, who believes in capitalism, if you will not give me money to hold power in my country, then the radical mullahs will take power. So I am your last bastion before creating another Iran. And if you don't want another Iran, you have to keep propping me up like the Shah of Iran. You have to keep giving me money, you have to keep giving me arms. And for me to retain hold over the mullahs, I need a strong military. And a strong military can only happen if you keep giving us weapons. Actually, if you read Pakistani history, from the first time that Ayub Khan, their president, made a Field Marshal Ayub Khan. By the way, of course, I'm a very junior officer compared to General Munir, but I think in age and course will be somewhere nearby. I'm sure many smarter people than me may have pointed out to him that all Pakistani rulers usually have a very bad end.
A very bad?
Very bad end. Muhammad Ali Jinnah died literally alone. When he went on his last night, when he was alive, he landed, I think, in Karachi. There was one ambulance which came to pick him up. That ambulance didn't have a nurse. That ambulance broke down. On the way, he was on the road for 2 hours while his ADC was trying to get another. He got it from a Red Cross, and that's the night that Quaid-e-Azam died alone. Ayub Khan was exiled by his successor, Yahya Khan. Yahya Khan was... So every one of them, and matter of fact, anyone who promotes himself into a field marshal, he's usually got a very short shelf life. So all their leaders, one after the other. So the first trip that Ayub Khan made to the US was to ask for weapons. He didn't ask for economy. He didn't ask for, I need funds for improving my agriculture. He just said, I need weapons to take care of the Hindu threat from this side. One of the first times that our Prime Minister appealed to the US was during a major famine when we needed food grains, which, by the way, happened in Pakistan also. It happened in the 60s. But look at the difference. I'll give the difference.
So cool.
The Indian Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, sees that as a humiliation and decides that there will never ever be an occasion when India has to stand with a begging bowl in front of the West.
Yeah.
And we start the Green Revolution. And that's why the Green Revolution started. And not only was the Green Revolution started and made so successful that India became self-sufficient in food, but we now are an exporter of food also. Pakistan also had the same experience. And Pakistan went, and it was also given wheat by the US. Pakistan's way of reading it is that this famine was caused in Pakistan because we don't have Kashmir.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if we had Kashmir and control of the rivers and that much of arable land, then we would have been self-sufficient. Though this famine had nothing to do with Kashmir. This famine was bad rains, and of course, those years we depend on monsoon countries. Yeah, and they are not dependent on, they have no artificial irrigation. So if rain came, you ate. If rain didn't come, you famined. This famine had nothing to do with Kashmir, but they painted it to say that if only we had Kashmir, we wouldn't have had this situation. So instead of being grateful for the wheat they got, they were resentful that this was only wheat given to us. Had you given us weapons, we wouldn't need to come to you to fish because we would know how to fish.
Okay.
So the origin of the problem lies in two fundamental issues. The first fundamental issue is how Pakistan was conceived.
Exactly, yeah.
It was conceived as an Islamic state. There is a problem there. That is a lie. Because a Baluchi doesn't think of himself as the same way of Islam as, say, a Punjabi does or a Sindhi does. They don't think of it. Look at the irony of ironies. There is a province inside Baluchistan which is called Kalat. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Okay.
It was an independent kingdom. It was an independent kingdom traditionally. So much so that there was a gentleman, a lawyer, a very fine lawyer, who fought a case on the behalf of the Khan of Kalat, as the king was called, against the British, and won the case, in which he proved to the British that you cannot hand over Kalat to India or Pakistan because it's an independent country and it was never yours to hand over.
Okay.
And this gentleman's name was Jinnah. Jinnah was the lawyer who fought for the Khan of Kalat to gain independence from the British. And after he got Pakistan, he sent his army to Kalat and forcibly got them.
And that was in which year? Around which?
Immediately after independence.
Right after.
47, 48, because he died. September 49 or 48, he died. So immediately after that. So he actually sent the army. And the Khan had to accede. So Pakistan's first lie is that all our Muslims are singing together and all worshipping the same Allah and all are singing the Kumbaya. That's not true. There are more people who die in sectarian violence in Pakistan than any other country in the world. There's Muslims killing Muslims. Sunni Muslim, Ahmadiyya, Shia, Mujahir, he comes from a different thing. They have so many different sects. And by the way, each Muslim of every sect believes that I am the true Muslim. This other guy who says Allah in the neighboring mosque is not. These bombings that you hear in mosques, the 50 people killed here, 20 killed here, and then some other Shia outfit taking place. Muslims killing Muslims. It is one fundamentalist strain of a particular religion killing. The moment you will make anything more and more radicalized, it will start becoming narrower and narrower and narrower.
Yeah.
And soon you will have cliques forming.
God, this is so much more complex than I thought.
Oh, you thought it was just because 4 guys killed 26 people. No. It goes back to a very big geoplay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go so much as to venture, maybe this is not a podcast where I should say this, but I don't think this was an attack that... First, let's go by steps. I'm just looking at steps, logical steps.
Yeah.
Which do
you know what? My mind is like you said, I understood the first reason. You said there are 2 reasons.
Yeah.
What is the second one?
The second reason is Pakistan, unfortunately, is in a zone which is now entering into what is called a failing state zone. Failing state zone. For a failing state zone is, let's say we are in this office and it starts raining heavily and then it starts leaking and then you put something here, then I know you got to hold that there, hold that. It's flowing from everywhere. We'll look at each other and we'll say, guys, we need to get out of this now. That's kind of started in Pakistan. You're seeing the Pakistani educated elite who are moving out. They're just leaving the country. Anybody who can afford to leave is leaving. There are no major investments happening. I mean, there isn't Danone coming and say, okay, we'll set up bloody 15 dairy plants here and all of that. And there's so much of uncertainty in this region. So it'll take a little while and little worse before the next generation of Pakistanis realize that leaving these people in command of the future of the country will not be a good idea, because these people are not looking to take it up. They're looking to drive it. I think if these three nations, back channels, intelligent people who are looking beyond, the jingoism will happen, because that has to happen for the local population.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you see Indo-Pak cricket match. You've seen it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The cricketers inside must be buddies. They must be friends, meeting each other, going to each other's weddings, families, this, that, asking how your son doing. I'm pretty sure that, Imran Khan would definitely ask his counterpart, how is your son doing in cricket? Uska kaisa chal raha hai? Is he going for this, that? And this is the discussion they're having. But they have to put up a show, just like a hero and a villain have to put up a show in the movie as if they are fighting each other, whereas they are very good friends and colleagues after that. I think somewhere the economic leaders of the country, of both countries, and I would go far to even include Bangladesh and China also, said that, do you want to keep playing the white man's game? I don't mean in the white man sense. I mean, do you want to keep playing the Western Hemisphere's game, which actually has no relevance in our space? There's no relevance. I don't think India is going communist. We had two bloody communist states in India and we didn't become communist. We still have a communist party in India which once in a while wins elections. Doesn't mean we have become communist. So why should we be afraid of somebody who is telling us, no, you have to fight the Russians because otherwise your democracy will go? Why? Why should we be listening to a communist who is telling us you have to do something like this? And I think the stand India is taking is pretty okay stand, which is that we have got into our own. We were a poor country, emerging economy, this, that, but we are now getting into our own space. And just like when you're a child, you listen to policies that your father gives you. Go to this school, do this, your name is Rodrigo, all of those things. But as you start growing, you say, the name may be Rodrigo, but signature I'll write my own way. I don't have to write the way my dad made the signature. My signature will be my own way. Over a period of time, you say, yeah, dad, you wanted me to work in a nice firm and all that. I've done it. I've made my money, but now I want to explore the world and travel around and I want to do it. I think India has reached that level of maturity today that we don't have to be bogged down with conflicts of the past. These kind of attacks and all are being done by, at the end of the day, you have to ask, whenever you do any...
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll tell you. Whenever you're doing an analysis of a situation, intelligence analysis, the first thing we are taught, the first thing you have to do is, Q bono. It's a Latin phrase. Who benefits?
Exactly.
Who benefits? Does Pakistan Army benefit? I don't think so. I don't think there is any benefit that Pakistan Army has got. Okay, he may have been made into a field marshal, but to become a field marshal, general will never take such a big risk because it can go either which way. It can even go with him being decapitated. So he will not take a risk. Second, I think I've studied Pakistan long enough to know that as a misadventure of this kind, which can provoke India into launching attacks into your space, not POK, but into your territory, cannot be taken by a Pakistani general without approval and explicit sanction from China. Because any escalation will require China to supply weapons. Any escalation. He can't go to the US for weapons. So he has to go to China. So without first getting an approval from China that, look, we are going to do something like this, I don't think he could have gone ahead. Now let's come to China. That is it in China's interest to ratchet up the tension between India and Pakistan? I would say no. It's in China's interest to keep sufficient tension in Kashmir so that half the Indian army or more than half the Indian army at certain times is bogged down in the western sector so that they have a free run in the eastern sector. They can do what they want. They want that much of tension. But do they want so much of tension that India starts rearming itself and becoming a stronger military power? that has two whammies to it. One is a small whammy, which is not such a big deal for China, but the other one is a big whammy, which China wouldn't want to do. Please remember that so we have the budget, we have the India's budget, right? With which we have to buy telephones, we have to buy computers, we have to buy aircrafts, we also have to buy tanks and weapons and all of that. If a rupee goes into a defense budget, it is not going to go to China. Because India is not going to buy any defense from China. Matter of fact, even electronics, there is a very strong thing that, in defense, whatever routers, shouters, Huawei, don't use it and all of that, there's a very strong thing. So why would China create a situation for India in which India starts diverting its purchases for nation building, which it takes from China, pharmaceutical, plastics, steel, building of infrastructure, roads, cement, statues, all of this is being done with Chinese, so China is getting the money. But if we were to switch this and say, no, we have to up our army and buy $40 billion worth of weapons, that's not going to be going to China. So why would China cut its own market and also enable India to become a more powerful army? That makes sense. The only player who is interested in this grand scheme of things with some situation arising here, I'm going purely by Q bono, who benefits?
Exactly.
The only person who benefits by having a foothold in this place and saying,
Which place?
I have a game in play between India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
I have a game in play in this region. I will get these two guys. I am still a very important individual, very important country in this region where they don't control Afghanistan. Matter of fact, they were kicked out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
They've been kicked out of Iran.
Yeah.
They can't. Donald Trump can't even imagine starting another Iraq, as in Iran. He can't do that. He has got, his bluff has been called out by China. All this tariff, this, that, he went all the way up and now it's kind of simmered down, all of that. So what's his play left here in this region? His only play left here is Pakistan. And to ensure that he has some strategic control over Pakistan, that's the only, nothing else explains this. Nothing else explains. I would even discount the wildest of conspiracy theories of false flag operations to say it doesn't make sense. Because nobody benefits with the false flag operation. Who benefits?
Yeah.
Nobody benefits.
Yeah.
Right? Pakistan doesn't benefit with this.
Yeah.
They've just lost whatever they've lost. I mean, let's say India lost something, whatever it lost, Pakistan lost something. My point is, India's loss will be 5% of India's assets. Pakistan loss will be 50% of its assets.
Yeah.
If India goes to war for 10, 14, 15 days, we are not going to touch our GS reserves of fuel, oil, all of these things. We won't touch it. We have more than, months of GS reserve with us. Pakistan is running on days. It's running on morning, afternoon, evening. That's the economy. Pakistan doesn't benefit from this. There is no gain that they get from it.
Oh, I see. Captain Raghu, you blew my mind.
Okay.
And you made me understand this conflict from a completely different perspective. And we went through the history. We understood like who's benefiting from it. Now, moving forward, what do you see, like, what are the things that needs to happen in order to have peace or collaboration between the two countries?
So, of course, again, just like Pakistan, India also have multiple communities, multiple stakeholders. Fortunately, I believe that I have had a little bit of experience, very tiny, but I believe that the decision makers who take these decisions in terms of forward movement, of course, they are guided by the persona of every leader. Every leader has a persona and the country also takes some of that persona. But there has got to be a certain kind of conversation and dialoguing that has to keep happening for the people, because whenever you take a nation to conflict, you take a nation to war, you kind of got to get all the people aligned towards that dragon you got to kill.
Yeah, I see. Right? I see what you mean.
Now, once you've killed the dragon, it takes a little bit of time to tell the people that this is not a dragon.
Yeah.
Because now overnight you can't say, okay, well, matter of fact, if I talk about peace with Pakistan, I'll be stoned when I go out of your studio. Because right now the mood is that we have to kill anything that is green, anything that is Pakistani, anything. But that's the fervor that has been built in, and it's been built for whatever reasons. Sometimes practical reasons also. But now when the tensions are going down and our delegations are going into that. I think this is the first time that India has done something in a systematic manner like this. Of course, even before 71, Indira Gandhi herself went to various countries to get their, sort of point. I think if the communication that goes out is not India, Pakistan, India, it's communication that goes out to this region. Right?
Yeah.
This region is the biggest market for you. Every rupee that India and Pakistan spend on defense, if you're not buying from you, it's gone. And all of us are planning to get, self-sufficient in this space. So we will eventually start building our own, in 5, 10, 20 years, we'll start doing that. So instead of defense-related equipment, which requires a war to happen, bad blood, and see, wars are not very predictable. There is a very interesting way to explain this, that when you play a game of chess, there is a certain degree of unpredictability, that if I play like this, you could do anything, but plausibly you will do this. If I threaten both your queen and your pawn, 99% chance you'll save your queen and not your pawn, because that's the way the game progresses.
Yeah.
The world today is not a game of chess. The world today is a game of snooker. So I can get the world's best person and tell him that you got to pot this ball into that hole and he'll do it. Tuck. But he cannot tell you how the board will end up after that. He cannot tell you which balls will be where.
Yeah.
So in war, usually you will be able to resolve, not even usually, very rarely, but sometimes you will be able to resolve your problem using force, but you don't know what the table will be after that. How many insurgents will you create? People who talk about breaking Pakistan into 4 pieces. Do you have any idea where those refugees will go? If you break Pakistan into 4 pieces and one of the pieces starts hunting the remaining pieces, Punjab will start hunting down the remaining pieces. Where do you think the Baluchis will go?
Yeah.
The Baluchis are not going to go to Afghanistan. They'll come to India. They'll come to Sindh. They'll come to Gujarat. They'll come to India. They have ties with Sindhis here. We have historical relationship with them. When they start getting butchered, what is India going to do? They stand aside. Remember last time East Pakistan, what happened? Who do you think had to go to war to just stop that problem from happening? So I genuinely think that if we start thinking more in terms of constructing this region into a economic region, and that's why I'm very carefully choosing not constructing Pakistan, constructing this region.
Yeah.
And if 4 or 5 of us realize that we are actually a center of gravity, if China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh markets get together, we can decide what will be there won't be 3-pin plug anymore, it will be 8-pin, they have to do it, because we are the consumers of the world. We can pretty much decide. The idea is that we have to join together, putting aside our boundary dispute, or they'll continue. In any large countries, there will always be conflicts. That you think US and Canada don't have conflicts, or UK and US don't have conflicts, or Portugal and Spain don't have conflicts. Oh, conflicts will continue. Reason is that your farmer came here, my territory there. But in the larger, like India has problems in its own states about water sharing. Right?
Yeah.
So these internal problems will continue, but the macro view has to be that the region must do well economically.
Yeah.
If that idea comes, then my sense is that the pivot of maneuver or the fulcrum will shift here. Till that happens, it is the interests of the powers of the world to make sure that there is no peace in this region, because it actually gives them a game in play.
Yeah. And money also. And
short-term money, but more control. It gives them resources, it gives them control. There's huge amount of strategic minerals that are shortage in the world, right? Shortage in the world. China has captured a huge amount of it in Africa. The Balochistan region is virgin territory. There is no country in the world which will not give its right arm to get access to those minerals which are in Balochistan. Right now, China is the one that is closest to it. The US will never want that. And it makes sense for the entire world to say that the assets of this, any nation, whether it's India, Pakistan, Balochistan, any nation, should be with the nation and not with outside representatives who represent that nation.
I love that. What you are saying is that, so the solution is to see this as a region who can prosper together and start building more economic connections, right?
This region, 100% right, except I want to just give you a nuance. This region is going to go economically stronger. There's no debate in it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any economist who's
Agree.
debating about India's growth or
Agree.
China's dominance.
Agree.
Bangladesh is also growing at a fairly, only player who's been left out is Pakistan.
Yeah.
And the reason why Pakistan has been left out, I believe, of course, it's got its own challenges, issues, tribal thing, the way it was formed, the lack of leadership in the beginning, a lot of bad luck, many such things. They actually lost, for example, two brilliant generals who would have gone on to become the chief of the army, who were thorough professionals.
Yeah.
Both died in the same air crash. First guy and the second guy. Both were being sent to UK for further training, and that's how Ayub Khan became the next in line.
Yeah.
So they've also had bad luck. They've had a whole series of it. I think if India, Pakistan, this region realizes that in our certain growth, we are being stymied by people who want to slow us down.
Yeah.
And if we just remove this stymie, we will grow at a pace that is our destiny and not slowed down by these kind of, kill this guy, kill that guy, this guy is very... I think we will be able to solve this problem. It can be solved. It is more complex problems than this have been solved. I don't think India and Pakistan have the kind of bad juju that France and Germany, for example. Where they physically came and conquered and ruled them and Vichy government and this and that and all of those things. And yet, they are members of the NATO. They have their trade partners, North Vietnam, South Vietnam, who had butchered each other. They are now, I genuinely believe that this can be done.
Nice.
If I think this...
Do you really believe that this can be done?
It will happen. It may not happen in your lifetime or my lifetime.
Okay.
But I always look at any problem by bracketing it into two extremes. One extreme is we nuke each other.
Yeah.
We came close to it.
Yeah.
Right? Better sense prevailed all along. The other extreme is we are symbiotically related to each other, physically related to each other. There is enmity between each other, but so we have also fought a war with Hyderabad by that logic. We have fought a war with Goa by that logic. So should we stop going to Goa? Any guy I see in Goa, I'll kill him. Yeah. These are rabble-rousing conversations, and they give fame for a few seconds to somebody who's a rabble-rouser, because it makes him look like a, I doubt whether any serious person who is engaged in war or who understands the larger pieces of war, not the combat, not killing somebody, that's very tactical. I'm talking about the larger implication of war. They will all come to the same solution, that eventually it will happen. Whether it happens in your lifetime, my lifetime, or a children's lifetime, but sometime people have to stop seeing the stupidity of fighting each other on irrelevant issues. Time is a perishable commodity. Opportunity cost is a perishable commodity. Right?
Yeah.
The 2 crore tourists, so whatever number of tourists who will not go to Kashmir this year, would have altered the life of many Kashmiri young kids who would have been going to school because their father was a tourist guide. Now he has to drop out of school. Now after 2 years when tourism picks up, he'll not go back to school. That generation is gone.
Yeah.
That opportunity cost is gone. Right? So this is the cost of war. The cost of war is not, we killed 4 of you, you killed only 2 of us.
Exactly.
We put down 4 of your aircraft. It's complete hogwash. Matter of fact, if I come to your house and you're living in a really nice house and a posh house, and I throw a stone at your main window when you were having a party with your investors, I broke one window, you could get the window replaced, and you ordered your servants to come and burn my hut. My hut was burnt. But who suffered bigger loss? I had nothing to lose anyway.
Exactly.
I'll build another hut. I had no electricity, no water, nothing. I was living in a stone age anyway. You were the one who were poised to actually call your investors who were coming in to put up Apple factory, this factory, that factory, considering India as an alternate to China, looking at India's skilling and all that. And now suddenly the war, sure, we can't. Anytime this war can start, we can't.
So if I understood correctly, what you say is the two countries need to understand there's a massive opportunity of economic development for both the countries. And you see the way it's going to happen is when even the new generations start shifting the mindset from a conflict to collaboration and starting with economic collaboration. And that will allow the two countries to grow and to prosper in the future, right? That's what you say.
I'm saying that. I just want to add one subtlety here. It's not just the two countries. The world has to realize.
No, yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because if the world keeps touting that India is going to be our future market, India is going to be our future, how will it be a future market?
True.
How will that Pakistani young youth who is just being educated in a madrasa, only on religious teaching, how is he going to earn money?
Yeah.
If he's not going to earn money, how is that population going to be a market for you?
Exactly.
What will you sell to them? You sell them Quran
Yeah.
or iPad loaded with Quran. What will you sell to them? If you have to sell them cars, if you have to sell them any capitalist dream, you need to make that individual capable of earning it, no?
Yeah.
But if his only earning, his only skill is that I am a religious teacher, I'll open another religious institution, and then I'll go to the US and beg for them. At some point, the US will also stop.
Yeah.
Everyone will stop.
Yeah.
So I think it's for the next generation to realize that it's their skin in the game.
Yeah.
And as we have this saying, I think all armies of the world have this saying, that the generals will fight until the last drop of your blood.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
I think the next generation of both the countries need to realize this, that jingoistic leaders will usually fight until the last drop of someone else's blood.
Exactly. Which can be our son.
Usually
right?
It's our blood.
It can be anyone's
It
son,
is,
right?
because if the economy slows down, it is your blood that is gone.
Yeah.
All flights to Kashmir got cancelled. Hundreds of flights got cancelled. How do you think the airline will make up that money?
Exactly.
He'll charge you for traveling from Bombay to Delhi. So that ticket cost will go up now. So anytime there is an opportunity cost somewhere else, we pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah. So to finalize, can you give? I understand there's a need for a mindset change. What would be your message for the two countries? And separate. What would be your message for Pakistan, and what would be the message for Indian people?
My message will be exactly the same for both the people. This conflict that is happening is a conflict that is being created, nurtured, and carried forward by stakeholders who aren't going to, who don't care a flying fish about you.
Exactly. Yeah.
All they care about is how do I remain in power.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a simple question I would ask all my Pakistani friends is to ask all their generals, ki, sir, aapke kitne bacche hain? How many of your children are in the army? And where are they, sir? Bataiye. Which forward post are they serving in? I would like to meet your son, sir. Munir, sir, your son, where is he serving, sir? Which forward post? Not a staff officer to somebody, not ADC, not flying choppers of VIPs and all that, but frontline. How many of you that died? Who got wounded, sir? Tell me. There's operations which happened. Who got wounded? Tell me that. These are the questions they need to ask.
Yeah.
And if they start asking, by the way, these are the questions that every population will ask of every set of the leaders, and leaders will find it very uncomfortable to answer, regardless of which side of the border. Because usually leaders and citizens have a huge difference in their lifestyle, in how they conduct their life, how they, barring some countries, of course, where even the leaders sort of participate. Usually in the birth of countries, the leaders participate in the front and they earn their right to be leaders. And once they become leaders, then the next generations are handed over that leadership on a platter, and then they start doing things to safeguard it, not to earn it, but to safeguard it. So the first set of leaders may have earned it out of merit, but subsequently the leaders want it purely because of legacy, nepotism, my birthright, or whatever. They don't really feel that they have to earn it. So my message would be exactly the same, that for the 20-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old kid, whether he's sitting in a street of India, street of Pakistan, and getting these mojo adrenaline hike because he saw a WhatsApp which shows how his army beat the other army.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whew.
Whoa. Yeah. So what people can do, what are practical things?
They should listen to this podcast.
100%.
Begin with there. They should forward it to people to get a balanced view of what is really going on.
Exactly.
At a macro level.
Which you gave.
Macro level. Because I don't want to get into who killed whose aircraft.
Yeah.
That's not going to solve the problem at all. The message I would really like to leave for most, all the listeners is, if you really want to understand any conflict, not just this conflict, I think you have to really read a lot about it and not just read your books. Don't read only Indian books about Pakistan, read Pakistan books about India, and most importantly, read third-party books written by an arm's length person who may have spent time in India and in Pakistan. Read autobiographies of these leaders, read biographies of these leaders, and then you will understand the psyche. Then now I get it. Unfortunately, our view into most complex situation is very, very tiny.
Exactly.
Firstly, it is tiny.
Yeah.
Secondly, the lens has already been fitted into it by somebody else.
Yeah.
And then a lot of jingoism happens. So we are not really looking and thinking. A thought is being planted into our head and we are regenerating that thought.
Wow. Yeah. I love it. I mean, this, for me, it helped me a lot, not just to understand the conflict, but also to better understand India. Made me understand better India. But I think what is more important is, I think in this situation, is that everyone looks to understand deeper what is behind what is happening. And I think through understanding, we can get into a conclusion. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Sadan. Rodrigo.
So good.
It was amazing.